30 if I can, but the last time I did I got
You get,
23.
you can type in the password and or the city gets.
It is a hard test.
But I'm worried that like I'm not improving as much as I should.
I don't remember what I got.
But I'm aiming for a 30. If I can get a 30, that'd be good. A 30 is good enough to submit.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really good. I would say.
Where do you want to upgrade?
Between a 21 and 24 or something. So 30 would be good.
Usually 28. This is good. That's fine.
Far left one. Yeah, but the far
Captive
left.
portal?
That's probably it. Just don't shut it. Just click on it. There you go. Now enter your user ID and password.
I absolutely do not like that.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We're the Owatonna School Board. This is Monday. It's the 22nd of April, 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Eric, our attendance tonight?
Perfect attendance.
We do indeed. Let's start tonight with the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up tonight would be to approve our agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion with regard to that? Hearing none. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 4 tonight is the mission moment. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for some introductions.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, it's always an awesome moment when we can recognize some excellent students. So I'm going to recognize a student and then a group of students. We have 2 of them here tonight. So the first person I'd actually like to have come up to the table is Nora Sletton. And Nora is not able to be here. I know it was going to be nip and tuck for her. So let me say some cool stuff about Nora. Nora is our OHS Magnet editor and reporter. Nora Sletton had the opportunity to interview Governor Tim Walz in his office at the Minnesota State Capitol a few days prior to his State of the State address at Owatonna High School. She was incredibly well prepared with a detailed list of questions on a variety of topics. The governor and his staff commended her on a great interview. You can read her articles on the Magnet website, ohsmagnet.com. Well done, Nora. Let's give her a round of applause. And I think we may have all 4 of our singers here tonight. So I'm going to ask Kalista Seiler, hope I didn't butcher your name, Callie Malika, Lucy Jacobs, and Lauren Packard to come forward. Come on up. Great, they're all here. Fantastic. Right up to the table. You guys are the stars. These 4 Owatonna High School choir members were selected to perform the national anthem before the State of the State address by Governor Walz. They did a beautiful job in front of a very distinguished audience, and many news cameras and numerous people commented on their great performance, which I have come to expect from our performers with Owatonna High School, but these 4 certainly stood out. Thank you so much for representing not only Owatonna High School, but the Owatonna Public Schools and the community of Owatonna and our choir program so well. Let's give them a round of applause. Board members, they're all yours for questions or comments.
I bet there are a few questions. Anybody?
I'll say it was a beautiful performance. We enjoyed it.
Thank you. You ladies did a wonderful job. I do have a question. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, you realized how big of a deal this was and you were super nervous, or 1, you were like, no big deal, just another football game? Like, where were your nerves at with the performance?
I would say mine was probably about a 6 until he walked up right behind us, and then I was like, oh, he's actually here. I went probably up to a 9.
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't as nervous until I walked in, and then I realized how big of a deal it was and how many people were there. And yeah, I feel like I wasn't that nervous until I actually walked up there.
Well, you couldn't tell. You just, all 4 of you did an amazing job.
Yeah, it was excellent. I was so impressed. Yeah, you guys just make us all look really, really good. So Thank you for being such a great ambassador of Owatonna and our program, and yeah, it was really inspiring.
I have a quick question. How long did you practice?
Not like
Long.
twice. We practiced once before that day, and then we practiced like once or twice that day. But other than that,
Ladies, you walked up, you blew the pitch, you nailed it. It was a spectacular performance. We had the opportunity to see your director afterward, and it was so much fun. I think she might have even been more excited about it than the four of you were. So, again, congratulations, and thank you so much for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
Item 5 tonight is public forum. Do we have any cards, Sarah, for public forum? Okay, hearing none. We're going to move on. First item tonight for reports would be a report for special education. Mr. Elstead, if you would please make some introductions.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, members of the board, tonight we have a presentation from Dr. Sarah Knudsen, our Director of Special Services. She has a team with her tonight, or a few individuals, or at least one. But Rinda Dulas does the work of a team. But anyway, we're happy to have them tonight to talk about a very critical and essential part of our school system, our special education department. So take it away.
Sure, thanks for having us tonight. So Mr. Elstead asked me to just do a brief overview of special education, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rinda, who will tell you. Oh,
Dr. Knudsen, can you pull that microphone close to you?
I can.
Perfect. Thank
Better?
you. Yes.
Is that better? Okay. So I'll do a brief overview of special education, kind of a year in review, tell you where we're at, and then we'll do a program highlight, which I'm really excited to hear about because that's really the exciting news of the evening. So first of all, thanks. I can't believe it's April. It seems really like about 12 days ago that I walked in the door in July, and so it's been a super exciting year. What a great year to come to Owatonna with high school and all the really great things going on. So thanks for having me, and I'll talk a little bit about where we're at with special education. So can I just... Perfect. All right, so I'm not going to throw much data at you tonight, but I thought I'd just give you an overview of where we're at with numbers in special education over the course of the last couple years. You can see that we do child count every year on December 1st, and that's how we get funded and how we measure a lot of different things. So you can notice that our special education child count 21, 22, 23 has grown pretty rapidly. I would call that maybe at a little bit of an alarming rate. I would also say that that's not unusual right now. I think we're seeing post-COVID response in our schools, and absolutely COVID affected and impacted our students in special education in an alarming way. So not really a surprise, and yet something we need to continue to just be responsive to. So our numbers have increased quite dramatically. We want that percentage of special education. In a perfect world, we'd like to see that at about 14, 15%. For me, if we could keep that down around the 17%, I'd feel really good about that. In the size of our district and our demographic, that would be a reasonable number. So we're a little higher than we want to be. Like I said, COVID, that's happened across the state and across the nation, so we're not abnormal in that area. What I did want to point out, though, just because I think it's probably interesting from a board, a financial, and a staffing perspective, is the shifts we've seen in our settings. So I put up here setting 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are federal setting codes, and setting 1, just for your references, the number of kids that receive special education services outside of their classroom less than 20% of the day. Setting 2 is receiving services outside of the classroom 20 to 60% of the day. Setting 3 is 60 or greater, still on site. Setting 4 is greater than 50%. It's mostly kids 100%, but it's a school that's off-site, so a special day school, all right? So you can look at our numbers here. And what I wanted to point out here, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, the growth that we've had in special education reflected by our percentage increasing, but I also want to note that if you see the number of setting 1 kids has decreased from 524 to 498, and you can see our more restrictive settings have actually increased. So we've got that a little backwards right now. Again, not abnormal. This tends to be the trend in the state and the nation. But when we think about our staffing patterns and our response to kids that have significant learning and or, social emotional behavior needs, you can see that their needs are getting greater. We're needing to serve students in more restrictive placement. But I'll also reflect on that in that we have a lot of work to do as we continue to shift this back in the right direction. I think we're heading that way. The answer to this is really having a good, strong, multi-tiered system of support, which you hear in everything. Special ed doesn't fix itself. Special ed and general education have to work together. This is where we really have to focus as a district on inclusive models of service delivery and integrated services where we're not working in silos. We don't have general education working here and special education over here, and sometimes we talk, those really have to be integrated services, and I've mentioned that a time or two, haven't I? So we continue to talk about that. But this is what our numbers look like, just so you have kind of a lay of the land of what that entails.
Dr. Knudsen, can I ask a quick
You
question?
can.
And it's maybe not even a fair question. Once a student enters setting 2 or setting 3, is there an average length that they receive those services before they transition down? Or is it typical that students enter that level of service and they stay there for the duration?
That's a really good question. The answer to that is that an IEP team, so a student on an individualized education plan, we have to review that at least annually. And that IEP team makes the decision on the level of service or type of service a student gets, so that can fluctuate across time. It's typical, once students are in special education, our rate of dismissal is not as high as it maybe could or should be, so we want to be dismissing kids, and we have an obligation, this is special ed language, but we have an obligation to provide services in the least restrictive environment, so we want kids to be in setting 1 that's in general education most of the time. So that's always our target, but again, we have to make decisions based on individual needs. I don't know if that answered it, but that's kind of how the process works.
Thank you.
So,
Yep, that was good.
All right, so just some highlights from the year. I feel like we've had a really busy year. We've been working really hard, so I just wanted to highlight a couple of the key things that we've been focusing on. Georgia numeracy is we've worked on is an elementary math intervention. We really, when I walked in the door last fall, we talked about reading and math. With the READ Act coming into play next year, I thought it's really important that we capitalize on some math intervention right now because most of our staff development time for the next couple of years will be wrapped up in reading. So we jumped on math early this year and focused on an intervention called Georgia numeracy. Trained all elementary special education teachers except our STRIDE or our DCD teachers. A couple of them participated. We focused on this because it's standards aligned, it's evidence-based, and the thing we want here is consistent intervention across buildings and all service providers. So that's been a good opportunity. You probably are aware of this, but we are making some shifts in our STRIDE programs. This last year, we've had 5 STRIDE classrooms at Washington, and we knew going into the year that was probably too many, but for lots of reasons, it stayed that way. Along with the boundary study, we knew it was important to analyze where our programs were located and just our commitment, again, to least restrictive environment, which includes more kids being able to go to their neighborhood schools. So we set out to balance that a little bit, and we're moving our STRIDE program to two locations instead of 1. So we're moving 2 classrooms to the McKinley building, which I think is really exciting. Again, more kids will be able to go to their home school. We'll be able to spread that out. Really at Washington, the greatest problem, that program's been great, the staff's been great, Libby's been awesome as a leader in that building. But when you put that many students into a small building, we didn't feel like we had the capacity for kids to generalize. So we really needed to spread that out across buildings. So I'm excited for that. I said a minor construction project. That might not be minor, but it's not major either. We're not building onto the building or anything. We're just putting up some walls. So a little bit of construction in the building, adding some adapted playground equipment there and a fence so we can make sure we've got integration opportunities for students in the building and on the playground. And Justin Keel's doing a great job there, starting to prepare his staff for a different group of students being present in his building. So I'm excited about that. In addition, we needed to look at our Discovery Classroom, which is also our Setting 3 program. This is our program that serves our students with social, emotional, behavioral, mental health issues. You know, that program is located at Lincoln. We've got 2 classrooms there. We have a need for a few more spaces for students. but we didn't have the capacity, even with the boundary change, to add a whole nother classroom at Lincoln. So we're adding an additional classroom at Wilson. It's not going to be a discovery room per se. It's really going to be designed to serve our students that are setting 2 and setting 3, which I described before would be that more than 20% up to 100% of the time in special education. So rather than expanding discovery, we're expanding our opportunities at another building to serve more kids there. So that'll primarily be Wilson students, but we could have kids from other buildings attend there as well as Lincoln. So that's an additional classroom space that we're putting in and adding some specialized programming there. This might have been the biggest project of the year just because, this was a stressful, it was a stressful situation for our paras. This law has been in place for quite a while. And not all districts, including us, paid attention to it. I would say right before COVID, the state came forward and said, we need to make sure we're meeting this personnel qualification requirement. And then during COVID, nothing got followed through because nobody had the capacity to do that. Well, last summer, the state came through and said it's very important that we're making sure that all of our paras working in special education meet this highly qualified status. So that meant that every para in our district, so our para educators serving students in special education, either had to have an AA degree, 60 semesters, hours of college credit, or needed to pass the para exam. So we tackled that. It was really stressful, and I would say the test is not an easy test. And for many of our paras, hadn't taken a test or gone to school or studied for something like that for a long time, and it had some, I would say, some high-level math in it that a lot of us haven't done for quite a while. So we prepared for that. Most of them took the test on the January Professional Development Day, and then we've been trying to support people to get caught up. So as of the time I did this slide, we had 58 paras had passed the exam. All of our paras are highly qualified. So they'd either passed the exam or had met that criteria to start with. So, we had a couple people that needed to take the exam a couple times, but we were committed to making sure that we were supporting and providing some tutoring and some individualized, remedial work if needed until we got everyone through it. So I'm feeling really good about that. And it was a big undertaking, and I give a lot of credit to the paras and to the supervisors who really worked with people to get through that. So. Everybody has their certificate now too. They wanted something to hold on to, and I don't blame them. Special education leadership team. We've got leadership teams across the district, but I just wanted to note that this is an advisory committee that I work with. I'm just asking this group to help me consider just general special education programming, staff development needs across the district. We're looking at a potential platform for IEP development that looks at supporting standards-aligned goals and progress monitoring, which, in my opinion, is the greatest need we have in our system in special education for just good alignment. And we'll have 5 meetings this year, and I listed the current members, and they've been great. We've had great dialogue and good support, and they're willing to provide feedback, so that's nice as well. So that's been a fun group.
If you don't mind me asking a question, what are the potential platforms for IEP training?
Well, we're looking at one called Goalbook. So I could tell you a lot more about it, but I won't bore you with the details. So so we have a platform that houses our database, and it basically we put the information in and it spits out the IEP report. This looks at it's really a pretty complex system that takes all of the general education standards and does the learning progressions and helps write a goal and a present level of performance. I like it because it does that systematically. Right now, if you pulled out all 1,000 IEPs, you get 1,000 different looking IEPs, which I don't think is very parent friendly. So we all got trained and learned differently about how to write goals and how to develop these, and people come from different districts, and it takes on a lot of iterations. And so having a systems aligned and a standards aligned platform would be really great. It also has some progress monitoring tools in it, and also evidence-based strategies that will support our instruction as well. So that's the platform we're looking at. I think we're going to do an early adopter pilot next year. We'll try to pick a person or two from every building, try that out, and then if that goes well, then we'll potentially adopt the next year.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes. Another big task this year is looking at some caseload, workload analysis. One of the things that I talked about and we talked about at Cabinet when I started was just general program evaluation. And two of the areas that I identified right away maybe we didn't have a good way to look at it's sometimes really easy to look at caseload. You can pull up a roster and it has numbers of kids on the roster, but that's just one really small piece of the picture, specifically for school social workers and speech pathologists, because those roles can look a lot different across buildings and across the district, and their jobs are really quite diverse. So we really have tackled trying to identify the key pieces in the workload, more than just the number of students being served or the committees that they're on, but how much time is that taking. We need to be able to look at our system and know if they're, if we have comparable workloads and, are we similar across buildings? So if you go to one building or the other, you're getting a similar set of services. So that's going on in the social work department. Our speech language pathologists tend to carry the largest caseloads of any in our district. We've got a couple SLPs that serve up to 70 kids. That's a really big caseload. And then other SLPs are a little bit lower. I would say generally in the district, our SLP caseloads are higher than maybe other places. So we just need to find a way to analyze that, manage that, and make sure we're honoring their work and balancing that a little bit. So another big task that takes a lot of time and a lot of input, and I've had great people at the table there supporting, trying to figure out what that's going to look like moving forward. Finally, I talked a little bit about MTSS and services in the beginning, and I think the way that we sort of balance that triangle in general education and special education is an MTSS system. We talk all the time about MTSS in the academic domain and how we've got the tiers of support, so universal, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And as we've worked through this year, I think we've discovered that we really need to use that same model as we consider that behavioral or social emotional behavioral domain. So we're just starting to tackle some work around what MTSS might look like. We use the Teach to Heal program in the district. We've used that consistently in our Setting 3 programs. It's been extremely effective, and we've got that integrated and implemented. We're using it, but not consistently across all of our other buildings in different ways. So we have identified a need that we can offer a guaranteed and viable service delivery model across all buildings. So we'll really begin to tackle that work over the course, beginning this summer and then over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. So that's pretty exciting. This is something that will truly touch every student across all of our buildings, and that feels good when we have consistency in that way. It'll be nice when we've got kids moving from one boundary school to another this year that they can expect similar set of services in a different place.
Coming from a non-education background, I find that the education world has a non-ending dictionary of acronyms. Could you explain to me what MTSS as an acronym stands for?
I can. Multi-tiered system of support.
Thank you.
And you've probably heard that before, right? Because we talk about that. And like I said, we think about it usually in the academic domain where we talk about our reading scores and what our tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 interventions are. And I'm just advocating that we look at that in the behavioral domain as well. Answer your question? Yes. Okay, good. I tried really hard not to get acronyms, and that one's a hard one to catch. All right. Finally, you've heard Chris Pica talk about the Grow Your Own pipeline and apprenticeship things. Primarily right now, she's working on a couple of those, but there's a lot of money right now in the state for the regions and locally for our apprenticeship and the special education teacher pipeline. Because special education is such a teacher shortage area, a lot of the money that's where these programs are starting in this area. So we've got the apprenticeship program that we're working on, and that's moving along quickly. And then there's also the special education teacher pipeline grants that I'm working on with our Region 10, which is the all Southeast Minnesota schools. We're focusing on those teachers that are currently special ed licensed Tier 1 or Tier 2. And then we've got some retention grants for Tier 3 and Tier 4, and then we're working on some teacher mentoring grants. So I've got my fingers in about 5 other grant opportunities there, but that's really exciting as well. I really feel strongly that if we do these 2 things and do them well, we really can grow our own, and we can take people that are already currently in our system or could come to our system, pay for their college, give them tuition support, on-the-job training, and we'll just feed our the pipeline right into classrooms with high-quality service providers. So, very quick overview. Any questions before I turn this over to Rinda? No? It's all yours, and I'll move that too.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Rinda Doulis, and I have been a special ed teacher my entire career at Owatonna, 24 years. I'm very excited to talk about PAYS and the work-based learning, because I think with the new high school, both programs really align to what we are trying to do. So, Jace, I know you're going to enjoy this one, but I have a couple different acronyms for you. The first one, the reason why we are going through the PAYS and the work-based learning is we have a number of federal laws that we have to follow, including IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disability Act, and WIOA. That is a workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. This requires school districts across the nation to address transition, whether it's post-secondary education or employment. Both PAYS and work-based learning align with both of these, with the federal laws. We're also, because we are in the new high school, which, thank you again, it's a wonderful place, we are trying to align everything, including special education, with our district's policy and the high school career pathways. What exactly is PAYS? This is going to be for our 9th and 10th grade students with disability, but it is also open to anyone that has an interest in different careers. This is a research-based, data-driven, age-appropriate one. It's a practical assessment exploration system. So basically what we do is we have a number of different components. Our students come in, they are trained to how to follow the protocol. We follow the protocol and we are assessing them, just basically learning what our students need, what kind of extra supports they might need. We're assessing our students' ability to work independently, accurate work, as well as the rate of speed, and then just a means of determining what kind of additional supports our students might need following high school or even in high school. After our PAYS with our 9th and 10th grade students, they actually come to me for the work-based learning, and that's a different program where we go into the community and we apply our skills that we've learned through PAYS and through our work-based seminar, and we actually apply it in a community setting. So, already talked about this. This is 9th through 10th grade. We have 5 areas where we are assessing our students, which includes the business marketing, processing and production, computer and technology, consumer service, and construction and industrial. With that one, we have over 260 jobs that our students are assessed. And really, the one thing that I really enjoy and appreciate with PAYS is our students are able to assess themselves, whether they do like the job that they're doing, whether they don't like the job they're doing. They can have some data right there to say, okay, if I am pursuing a job, I know what I've already liked, I know what I don't like, I have the ability to decide, do I need additional supports, and how do we provide that? How can I access the school and help all of our students become as independent as possible? Starts with PAYS, we go into the work-based learning, and this is something that if you ask our students, initially they did not want to do this. This is not what our classes are set up. We're not used to our classes, but our students are getting trained, and this is real-world application of here's a job. There are going to be parts of our job that none of us like, and whether we still have to do it because that is a part of our job. How do we adapt to that? How do we overcome our likes or dislikes and get that job done? And they are able to do that. So 264 jobs they can do, and they can tell you whether they like it or not. And let me tell you, they're very, very good at telling you that as well. After we get done with PAYS, and right now our lab, it is completely occupied. Every minute of every day, the PAYS lab is being used. So whether we have our STRIDE students in there or we have students that are LD or EBD, learning disabled or emotionally behavior disabled, they come in and they can all try that. Some jobs, they're going to be progressively more difficult. We start with the easy and we go through, and eventually it is difficult. Like if I had to do some of those construction jobs, my husband, who is an electrician, laughs at me when I'm trying to show him these work cards, and he's like, okay. I'm like, there's no way I could do this. But our students find a way. I am so impressed with everything that they are able to do. I would welcome you to come on in and take a look at our PAYS lab, because you will see students that you would think they could never do that, and they overcome it, and they're able to do these jobs. And it depends on the amount of support, which we're providing right now, and we can find that out. After PAYS, we go into work-based learning, and that is our program. So when we first did this, I am the first and only teacher that has done the work-based learning for our special education students. This is something where we participate in a work seminar, and we talk about employability skills. We talk about post-secondary options. Tomorrow we're going to Riverland to see and meet with our disability coordinator. We've made trips to Mankato State. Our students have that opportunity to see whether we want to go employment or we want to do post-secondary, just like any other student has that opportunity to do. The work-based learning program is just to assist students gain employment skills and become competitively employed and actually know what do you want to do after high school. Whether we go into employment, whether we go continue on for schooling, we'll know what we can do, and we'll have the data to support that. Benefits for students. They're connecting real life skills that we're teaching in the classroom, and they can go out into the community. They explore different things. They definitely will tell you which jobs they prefer over other ones. We have a number of community-based supports right now, and we do go out there in the community with job coaches. So they're paraprofessionals that are highly qualified, but they also go out there with our students and they'll assist. They're not there to do the work. They're there to maybe verbally prompt or give a demonstration, but our students are doing the work. And a number of our students have graduated from high school and they've become employed at our community sites. So they now have jobs after that. I had one student who was going to be a YouTuber, didn't want to work, didn't want to do anything, and his parents were very concerned, and now he's employed at Courtyard by Marriott. So we have students that are successful, and they're enjoying it. And when we come in with our new group of students, I see certain students that I've had, and they will come over and talk to our students and say, this is a great program. So you can come out to job sites too, come on over. This is one of the strongest predictors of adult education success for students and youth with disability. It also will show you, research-based, that it's a link for higher rates and higher attendance and graduation rates than students not enrolled in these programs. So, we do have goals for every student. Hopefully, as you know, not everyone likes to do work. So when we go in there, we're working on work stamina and job completion. We're trying to raise career awareness and opportunities and chance just for different job industries. Increase self-advocacy. So if we do need, sometimes our students struggle with whether to disclose if they have a disability or not. They can choose to, and then they can also advocate for what kind of needs or supports they need. I had a student who is employed. She is a diabetic, and she needed some more additional support for medical, and she was able to advocate for herself at that job. So it's huge for our students knowing that when they graduate, they're not gonna always have us. And now if they can do that themselves, that is a win in any book. It increases independence and it increases the ability to take initiative. A lot of our students, or a lot of our community partners have said, students are coming to work, we're on our cell phones, we don't always take the initiative. We finished a job, now what? Our students know what to do. They know to go and find something, and if they don't have anything to do, they have come up to supervisors and asked, I'm done with this job, what can I do next? So that, again, it's just a win. It's amazing to see. Currently, we do have a couple of interagency partners. We're partnered with Vocational Rehabilitation Services. And what VRS is, that's part of the states of Minnesota Department of Education and Employment and Economic Development. They are a service that even though when our students are done at the age of 22, this partnership, they can continue through the rest of their lives. I've had students, previous students who've had jobs, COVID came, they lost their job, but because they were partnered with VRS, they were able to go in and find another job. VRS provides a paid work experience, so our students are signed up and they earn a paycheck. And trust me, they have already talked about all the taxes they're taking out of their checks. And today we had a conversation about Roth IRAs and retirement. And I had a 15-year-old who was telling an 18-year-old, you need to put as much money as you can in there because you don't want to work the rest of your life. So I appreciated that. We had the paid work experience. We have job exploration, training, and college exploration. Like I said, we're going to Riverland tomorrow. We've gone to South Central Technical College. I really want to give our students an experience of four-year college, what a four-year college is like, what a technical college is like, and what a community college is like. And so we understand that there are differences. How do we go to Riverland? We graduate from there. What's our next step after that? So making sure that we are meeting with a disability counselor, we're aware of what kind of supports we can ask for, especially when we turn 18, and now we are our own legal guardians, and we're adulting. And I've already had another student in a different class tell me adulting sucked. So pardon me, but they were not happy. They were now becoming an adult.
I agree with his sentiment.
Currently, our community partners right now, so we do have students that are going out to work. We are partnered with Alexander Lumber, Cornerstone Church, Courtyard by Marriott, Country Inn and Suites, Fairway, McKinley Elementary School. I have a student that goes in and shelves books, and she's probably one of the best librarian that Mrs. Carlson has ever seen. We are really working and hoping that we can get into the public library this summer because she is just phenomenal. She knows exactly what to do. She was helping students find books for their own project, and she couldn't wait to tell me that, so it was exciting to see. We also have students that go to the Red Zoo and Sister Salon. So those are our community partners right now. Our current reality, so when we started this, when we obviously didn't have any students, currently we have 14 students placed throughout the day. So we have job sites in the morning and we have job sites in the afternoon. So we can split up the groups and go different ways. They received supported job coaching. Through my licensure, I am teaching a coordinator for work-based learning through Bethel. I'm able to have students that are independently work and they gain credit through work too. So every 60 hours of work, they can gain a half a credit as an elective credit toward graduation. So I think that's it. Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, I bet there are. Questions?
Just a quick one. For the students who are working, are those paid or unpaid?
They can be both, and it really depends, but through VRS, they are paid experiences. There have been some parents that have chosen not to, just for a variety of reasons, but every student we have has that opportunity to gain paid work experience.
That's awesome.
And then as just an additional question on top of Erin's question,
Yeah.
Does this program seek to look at other businesses in the future?
Absolutely.
Are there plans of expanding?
Absolutely, because what I really would like to do is to look at all the different pathways that we have. I would love to expand. We have been talking to a coffee shop, so retail, we would love to see really getting into the different industries. So our students do have that opportunity to try all of them and rotate through.
What does a student do at the Rad Zoo?
So, very fun. They get to prepare the meals for the reptiles there. Sometimes they clean out the cages with the reptiles. They will show me pictures, and I have gone there, but I will not touch them, although my students seem to enjoy the reptiles. So, yes.
I have just a couple questions. Dr. Knudsen, maybe this is for you. You were talking about enrollment. Maybe I'll ask that one first. Do we have open enrolled students in our spec ed program, or?
We do. I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, but we have, well, I talked a little bit about our Setting 3 programs.
Yeah.
You know, we have very robust Setting 3 programs, and we do have families that open enroll strictly for the Setting 3, but we have some general education students who have Setting 1 that are open enrolled as well,
Sure.
so.
Yeah. And then just a quick question about this, the workplace thing. So at what point in the I think it's a high school career, a student can participate in that on-site work-based
So
learning? Is that?
they can do that their junior and senior year. We have taken cases where in 10th grade that was just, school was not for that particular student.
Yeah.
And it's not always an academic route. So this was a way, and actually highly successful. Really, he is now applying, we're looking at applying at different jobs, and he wants to work this summer. And this was not a student at that point that was really considering anything. So, yep.
Well, and then maybe one just quick follow-up, if I may. Can you comment about how the program has changed this year as opposed to maybe prior years?
Sure.
I mean, specifically sort of the physical space, and what does that bring you or offer or make available?
What that offers is we are really looking at it more inclusive. So I have talked with our ag teachers. We are connecting with our welding and our woods, because a lot of, especially my gentlemen, they are really interested in construction. And so we have that ability to now to reach out. We have reached out with Brian Coleman, our career navigator, and we've been able to get into different jobs. We have a student who, with ag, he's now in Reval, and that's something that we can make these connections, including everyone. So it was not just limited to perhaps the special ed department. We're now opening up and we're getting out there, so that we didn't have that before, and now we do. So students are very excited about this.
Thank you.
Anybody else? That was terrific.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and both of you, and obviously Dr. Knudsen, your presentation is, kind of in general about a lot of things that are happening. This is a really complex system. And as we lift up the strategic direction of equity, I think about the equitable opportunities that our students, regardless of their disability, receive in our school district, and that's amazing. And to think about, Rinda, where you bore this baby, so to speak, with work-based learning, I'm so proud of the work that you've done to really bring that to our community, because our kids are now out working and they have a future and they see something beyond what maybe was possible for them before. And that's amazing, and that's why we get open enrollment here, because we have great educators that make this work.
We actually just had a student who came here and they had a choice between Ohio, Wisconsin, and they chose Owatonna because we have this. We have the career pathways. We have this ability to go out and make these connections with our community members. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7 tonight would just be the general information that included your enrollment report. Any questions for Mr. Elstad with regard to the information in your report?
Just, I see that we finally got a red, unfortunate, a red.
Pardon?
Was that a move?
Move-in.
Move-in? Okay.
Yep. And again, when they become resident students, during the course of the year, we're enrolling them. And so we get close to that threshold, and that's why we like to have a little buffer, because we always see some move-ins during the course of the year, so.
But again, it's just really an illustration of your work on school boundaries, right? It's just one more reminder about the why.
Yeah, if we were to continue this way,
Right.
we'd see more and more areas of concern where class sizes, because of neighborhoods growing. And again, the attendance area work that we did was based upon trying to find and get those class sizes to a spot where they're within the board set limits as well. So,
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Item 8 tonight would just be the discussion items. We'll start with board forum. Jace, if you don't mind, we'll start down on your end.
I would love to. So the Owatonna speech team has sent 8 to state. So recently, I think Erin can tell you more about what happened at state. I wasn't exactly there. I was also at an NHS volunteering event at a homeless shelter. but I heard that we did a great job, and this is our second year of sending, I think, I want to say the most to state in our district.
Last year we sent 12. So last year was a crazy year where we sent a lot of new people to state as well, like a lot of first year members, which is really cool.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely in districts, in terms of just like the teams we're competing against, we send usually the most amount of people to state. So that was an excellent opportunity. I recently published an article, and as we're here at the meeting, we opened the time capsule. I published an article about local history and opinion on why we need to be invested in it for our future. And so I think this moment served as an affirmation. And besides that, I have no other information for the board.
Thanks, Jace. Aaron?
I was not at state either, but state is just crazy because it's so many people from every single district, top of this speech from their area. And I went there last year, and you get escorted around by someone to make sure you're not cheating or anything or making any violations. It's stressful, but it's really cool. I believe Ayufera made it to finals. I could be wrong, but that's what I saw in someone's story. Other updates, ACTs are tomorrow. I'm a little nervous. We'll be all right. Big Nine Select, which is choir, orchestra, and band, is doing a rehearsal on Wednesday. And then the robotics banquet, which I'm super excited for because I've done all the planning for it, is happening on Friday. And this year we're actually going to a restaurant, which is awesome. So super fun stuff this week, but also a very stressful week for all the juniors. But it's all right.
We just had our youngest son is in second grade at Wilson, so we had the choir concert last week, and it was just the quintessential elementary school choir concert. I loved it.
Nice.
Yes.
Was it at the high school?
Yep.
Yeah, in the auditorium.
Yep. It was sweet.
Eric?
We had a facilities meeting tonight. The ODO, the Owatonna District Office, is on par and on time. It will be ready for the server move as planned at the end of June. As you can see, if you haven't driven by lately, the back building is down, the backfill's going in. There'll be roughly 6 inches of black dirt overlay with sod down the road being put in. Second floor is winding down to just needed to add in the carpet, and they'll be working to finish the things down on first floor. Mark, got anything to add?
There will be a garage that we would think of it as the ag building. It would be positioned essentially right in front or on the north side of the ag building. When the wall that would be the south wall of what we would think of as the gymnasium, there will be an exterior wall that will be constructed on the south side, and we'll start to see framing and sheathing going up on that relatively soon. As Eric mentioned, the district office, which is moving from Bridge Street over to the old high school location, appears as though it's very much on track and on time. And but for all practical purposes, the entire project appears to be going very, very well.
Yeah, just briefly, the policy committee, you'll see some of our work in the agenda tonight. We continue to meet monthly, and Sarah keeps us organized, and we have a long list, so we'll keep plugging away. I don't have anything in particular to call out.
All right, 30 days left, folks. 30 days. Hang in there, guys.
That's it?
Aaron and Jace, yeah. Yeah, hang in and hang on, let me tell you. That, along with Finance Committee, is meeting this next week. So, moving and shaking.
Don't have anything.
Don't have anything.
All right. I had one last thing to mention with regard to board forum. On Saturday night, our neighbors to the north, 15 miles to the north. Faribault has an organization that honors and lifts up distinguished alumni. And there's an Owatonnan that was recognized and lifted up and rewarded with a distinguished alumni designation from the school district in Faribault. His name is Jeff Elstead, as our superintendent. Was very proud to sit at his table and not only hear Jane Draheim, who nominated and introduced him, but to hear Mr. Elstead speak about his life and career as an educator as well. Clearly, one of the synonymous takeaways for me with sitting in a room, basically a room full of educators from Faribault, is to have a heightened appreciation for just how every town appreciates and lifts up the importance of a quality education and what it means to that community. And it was very evident to us that Faribault certainly feels that way, and many times on Saturday night, I felt myself saying, yeah, me too. I feel that way as well. So, Mr. Elstead, congratulations.
Thank you.
On that nice honor. With that, we've done our school board committee meeting reports. Lori, I'll turn to you. Item 2 here is policy revisions. Do you want to talk us through anything that you'd really like us to know more about?
Again, I think the notes, while they're brief, they're spot on. There's nothing particularly, I don't know, nothing I would particularly call out. You'll see the READ Act requirements are in there. The last item on the agenda is simply a renumbering because MSBA also, they wanted to use a number. So some of it's just administrative in that sense. I don't know, other committee members, any other comments?
You got it.
No, thank you.
So pretty straightforward. If you just, read through it, we can certainly answer questions, at the next meeting or before if you have them.
Sure. Anybody have any questions?
Question about just the meeting minutes from March and April. It looked like there was a reference to policy 616, but it's not on the review.
Yep.
So just questioning what was going on.
Sure. So, well, that's a really good question. There's a lot of work that goes into review of policies, frankly. And so that one is still under review. It's not a slam dunk. We found some things that we just felt needed some clarification. So, yep, there's homework, and we'll continue to work on that one, and you'll
So that one's
see it on the
coming.
next minutes probably. No guarantees when you'll see it here.
Sure.
Yep.
Any other questions? Anything to add? All right, good. Thank you very much. Mr. Elstad, administrative report. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll keep my comments brief tonight, but probably the biggest thing is just a quick legislative update. So we're in the home stretch of the 2024 legislative session. They're taking a few breaks here early this week as a Passover break for the legislature, but all of the committee work is done. And so now it's up to a joint committee of both House and Senate membership to resolve any unresolved issues. A couple things I will note for you. Lots of work has been done around the READ Act to try to put more meat on the bones, so to speak, with that. In addition, there's been some dollars appropriated within both the House and the Senate for districts to use for training as well as curriculum and instructional materials for the READ Act to implement that. Again, that was an unfunded mandate last year, and I'm glad to see that they're putting some money into that to help us work through that. There are a number of other issues that are taken up, and again, now it comes down to the joint committee to really decide both on the policy side and the education finance side to look at how might they resolve those to probably find one omnibus bill that they would bring forward to both the House and the Senate for final approval before it would head to Governor Wall's desk for signature. There are a lot of things moving and shaking right now. I would just say that, and some of those things would find lots of benefit for our district. Some of the things I would question the benefit of them. But that's where the advocacy comes in, where I get an opportunity to engage with our legislators. We have very supportive legislators in both Senator Jasinski and Representative Petersburg of the work that we're trying to do in the school district. MCA testing is nearing completion. That's a good thing. That's a long and arduous task every year for us to do. And then lastly, as mentioned before, we will be starting a transportation safety committee, something that hasn't been used here before. It's really to bring some parent representatives as well as some Owatonna Bus Company representatives together to really look at some of those intersection things in our community where we might want to consider making that a barrier because it would be too or unsafe for students to cross. It's kind of been back and forth between the bus company and the school district, and we really like to have maybe a more inclusive effort of trying to determine where those are at so that the routing of our new bus routes, particularly for elementary students, would be done in a more safe way. So those are all my notes for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Item 9 would be the consent agenda. Quick reminder, we are approving the minutes from March 18 and April 8 disbursement, as well as the personnel report. Anybody have any reason for us to pull any of these items out to be voted separately? Okay, hearing none. Would one of you entertain the motion?
I move that the board approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. One last opportunity for discussion. Hearing none. Eric, if you would, please.
Yep. Elizabeth?
Aye.
Deborah?
Aye.
Tim? Jolene? Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
And I myself is an aye. 7-0 pass.
The motion carries. Thank you. Item 10 tonight, there are a couple of items that need to be brought up. And the first one, which I will introduce because this is a word salad. Item A would be the identified official with authority to authorize user access to MDE secure websites. And Mr. Elstad, I'm sure you're just sitting on the edge of your chair waiting to help us understand this.
There's a requirement from the Minnesota Department of Education that the board does indeed designate an official, identified official with authority. They're, interestingly enough, their acronym is Iowa for this one. And this actually provides me, as your superintendent, the opportunity to authorize people within our district administration that need to work with access reports. Whether it's something to do with curriculum, we do STAR reporting for our highly qualified individuals that work in the district. We also have discipline incident reporting systems. So again, a number of systems, but one person has to be designated by the school board, by state law, for us to be in compliance with the Department of Ed.
And that person is?
Yours truly,
Yes.
Superintendent.
Yep. Questions? With that, would one of you have that motion up?
I move that the board authorize Jeff Elstead to act as the identified official with authority for Owatonna Public School District 761.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item B tonight would be the school food prime vendor and USDA commodity foods contract. Mr. Elstead, again, can you give us a high-level description of this one?
Yes, this is something that is something the board does quite often to make sure that we are getting the best deal we can with our prime vendor. We do have Lori Voles, our Director of Finance and Operations, as well as Sarah Brooks here tonight, who's our Director of Food Service or Student Nutrition Services, for any questions you might have in regard to this item.
It's Upper Lakes Food, right?
Pardon?
It's Upper Lakes Foods.
Yes, Upper Lakes Foods was awarded and then renewed every year, and that's likewise this year.
Any questions? One of you happen to have this one queued up and ready to go?
I move that the board approve awarding the prime vendor and USDA commodity foods contract to Upper Lakes Foods for the 2024-2025 school year with up to 4 one-year renewals.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item C tonight was a farm lease agreement. Mr. Elstad, please.
Yes, and I have Lori Bowles, our Director of Finance and Operations, here tonight to answer any questions you might have regarding this item. If you recall, we have a parcel of farmland that is located just east of our community, kind of out a little further out than Turtle Creek Nursery, that the district owns. I believe it's just about 40 acres of property. And so we have cash cropped it before. Department of Education gave us some advice on how we might best be able to utilize that. So I'll turn it over to Lori to add any further detail.
Yes, as was mentioned, most recently, like last year, we had kind of changed the arrangement regarding the farmland. And we had actually operated as a district as part of the ag program And then the district actually had entered into arrangement for the custom farming, the labor and machinery component of it. In talking to MDE, they actually recommended that the district actually enter into a lease agreement with the FFA, and then the FFA would operate it, and they would enter an agreement with the farmer for the contract, the custom farming labor and machinery service, I'll say. So this is just realigning it to that regard, and it just establishes a very nominal fee really for the FFA. So it is for the benefit of the students in their learning in the ag program. So in talking to our auditor, she recommended that it be brought to the board so that you were fully aware of this adjusted arrangement, I'll say, and for board approval.
And is it reasonable to conclude that in the past, the lease agreement, the revenue that flowed into the district from the lease agreement supported FFA? For all practical purposes.
So in the past, when we leased it to the farmer, like a couple years back and for many years prior to that, those revenues for the lease, I think this is what you're asking, that came into the district coffers in the general fund.
Okay.
But of course, the ag program is part of obviously our curriculum. And so there's a component here that the students in their ag class will still be able to have learning opportunities, even with the FFA operating it per se. So it's multi-pronged. One of the biggest advantages to have the FFA be the entity that leases the farmland is that it gives them more flexibility to enrich that experience of the FFA opportunity, as well as they will then be selling the grain when it's harvested, but they're also responsible for the inputs, the expense. I mean, they've been very successful in getting a lot of donated product for the inputs, but that becomes the FFA's responsibility per se. But it also gives them more flexibility in when those proceeds come. There's more ways they can utilize those funds. Even, for example, if they wanted to issue a scholarship, they can now that it's through an FFA is like a booster. So there's different regulations for them. And these are the reasons why MDE recommended that FFA actually be the one that we lease the land to.
Okay.
And we can get both benefits. The ag course itself can benefit from this arrangement and be involved in the learning aspects, but then also the FFA and the additional projects they do.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one, Lori, do you have just a high-level estimate of the value of so when we leased it as a district and we generated some nominal amount of revenue, what kind of revenue
we generated about, off the top of my head, I think it was about 4,000.
Yeah, right, so
it's pretty small.
Small dollars. But,
So the amount that we're leasing now to the FFA is, a very small amount.
Yep.
In comparison, but it's supporting the educational
Absolutely.
program.
No,
So
I appreciate the
yeah.
sentiment. I was just curious what the number was, and I appreciate that if MDE is recommending it, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just curious, Lori, is it just farmland, or is there a home or buildings on the property?
It's farmland. And that being said, I know that even for the ag program, they're looking at some additional, I'll say, activities, which I'm sure the ag teacher could give you more details, but there's more enriched experiences they're looking at developing there at the farm site.
It'll be fun to see what they do.
Yeah.
Eric, you got that queued up?
Yep. I move that the board approve the farm lease agreement with FFA as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Lori, if you'd stay where you are, we'd sure appreciate it. Item D tonight would be the insurance renewal. Mr. Elstad.
Yeah, you can see, Lori does a great job of identifying. We also use the National Insurance Services as well to help us walk through the Health Insurance Transparency Act legislation. So because of the use, we actually only saw a 3% increase in our health insurance coverage, which is very good. We are still self-insured. We did that process about 6 years ago. That has helped us to control those increases in health insurance. Whereas other folks are seeing sometimes double-digit increases. And I appreciate the work that Lori and her staff have done with NIS to make sure that we're getting the best rate we can and keep that extra burden away from our employees and taxpayers.
All of the information was in your packet. Anybody have any questions for Lori on this topic? No?
Just well done.
Yes. One of you have that?
I
queued up?
move that the board accept the self-insured health insurance renewal with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Last item tonight would be the gifts to the district. Mr. Elstad.
Yes, we have a number of gifts tonight. I want to just call out a couple to your attention. What you see before you is just over $4,500 worth of gifts to the district from the Music Boosters of Owatonna. You saw tonight the testimony from our students that perform well. The Music Boosters are alive and well, and it's just excellent to see how they give back to our school district, and we just continue to see those opportunities for our students to perform musically. A number of other gifts that are there, including one larger gift from the Owatonna Basketball Association for a Dr. Dish basketball machine. Not quite sure what it is, but that gift was valued over $3,000. So again, very philanthropic. And I would also mention there's an interesting gift here from the Mankato Area Foundation. We have a group called the Thriving Minds Club, which is our student group that works with mental health awareness. And they're doing a mental health awareness walk, and so they were given a gift as a result of this from the Mankato Area Foundation. So love the fact that our students are even entrepreneurial and seeking out those grant opportunities to do activities to bring those things to light.
If I could just comment, I think that Thriving Minds is a fascinating student organization. It started last year, and it was started by one of my fellow editors, an editor-in-chief actually, Jose Rosas, and he started it with the idea of looking into the past and seeing a history of athletes that unfortunately have committed suicide throughout our district. And so he took what he experienced and made it into an organization. And I would say that for an organization that has started last year, is probably one of the largest followings in our school district, and has raised immense amounts for their purpose. And so I would only want to commemorate and raise them up as just an excellent organization.
Jace, do you know when their walk is?
No, I do not, but I could certainly communicate with Jose Rosas, and he would provide me that information.
Could you push that out to the board when you find out?
I certainly can. I actually could do that by the end of the meeting, because I believe it was put out on social media for students and members to see.
Thanks. Any other comments? One of you have that motion queued up?
I move that the board approve the resolution of acceptance of gifts as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Eric, if you would, please.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Deborah?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Jelaine?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Eric? I am an aye. 7-0 pass.
Motion carries. Did you find it?
No, I'll do that.
Item 11 tonight would be to adjourn. I'll make the motion that we adjourn this meeting. Motion and a second. Good meeting, folks. Very good meeting. Thank you so much.
We
All
need
in
to
favor
vote.
with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.